Vittorio, or in this case Darian, didn't just build an empire, he built a monument to betrayal and his bride just set it on fire. Most see a wedding ruined, I see the cycle of betrayal coming full circle. Darian thought Alara was soft, a mere pawn to reach her father's shipping contracts. He underestimated the steel inherited from a dockside king. By aligning with Victor D. Costa, Alara didn't just escape a predator, she became the architect of his extinction. This is the anatomy of a woman who chose power over victimhood.
All right, so check it. Ara Voss was supposed to be doing some innocent wedding cake tasting. Instead, she walks into her fiancé's place and overhears him and her own sister plotting to torpedo her entire future. But does she freak out? Nah. She just casually hits the record button on her phone, because this isn't a sob story, fam. This is a revenge plot, and the main ingredient is hard proof. That little audio file is either going to save her empire or be the nuke that levels it. If you want to see how a woman goes scorched earth after losing it all, you better stay tuned. Hit like and drop your city so I know how far this drama is spreading. The whole city was crying with her, blurring the lights outside. Parked in front of Darian Hale's high-rise, she's staring at a mountain of pink cake boxes. We're talking 7 different flavors, from vanilla to chocolate ganache, each one a perfect little square, a promise wrapped in paper. She's running 20 minutes late, thanks to gridlock and a bakery crew arguing over icing like it's a national security issue. Ara grabs the boxes, balances them like a pro, and makes a dash for the entrance. The doorman gives her the usual nod. She's been a regular for 2 years, first as the girlfriend, now as the fiancé. The key to the penthouse feels like a brick in her pocket right next to a diamond that costs more than a car. The elevator shoots up 43 floors in dead silence. Ara catches her reflection. Smudged mascara, frizzy hair, but whatever. It's not like Darian would even look up from his laptop long enough to notice. When the doors slide open, the entire penthouse is dark. Major red flag. Darian's whole deal is keeping the lights on. Some weird trauma about not affording power back in the day. Darian, she calls out, dropping the cakes on a marble table. Sorry I'm late. The bakery was insane, and then traffic was... But a sound cuts her off. It's a quiet little laugh coming from down the hall. A shiver runs right down Ara's spine. She knows that laugh. She's heard it 1,000,000 times. It's Livia, her sister. Ara's feet start moving on their own, her brain trying to catch up as she glides down the corridor toward the master bedroom. The door is cracked open, spilling a sliver of light onto the floor. We can't keep doing this, she hears from Darian, his voice thick with something that definitely isn't work stress. She's going to find out. Then let her, Livia snaps back, sharp and brutal. You're the one who put a ring on it. I told you it was a dumb move. The merger needed it. Her dad won't sign over the contracts unless his precious girl is locked down. Yeah, Darian, I know. You've only said it 40 times. The sound of rustling clothes. But we're on the same page, right? You're not actually marrying her. And that's Ara's cue. Her fingers are shaking, but she unlocks her phone, finds the recorder, and hits the big red button. 3 more months, Darian says. That's all we need for the contracts to be signed. Then we handle it. Handle it? How? Livia's laugh is pure evil. Gonna let her down gently with a fat check. I'm going to make sure she has 0 legal ground. The prenup is ironclad, but her father's inheritance isn't. If we play this right, she gets it all when he dies. And if you're her husband when he croaks, you get everything, Livia says, sounding way too happy about it. Community property. Brilliant. Only if she gets the money before we get married. That's the risk. Marcus Voss is 72 with a bad ticker. It could pop any day. Well, Livia purrs, maybe we just nudge the timeline a bit. The silence that follows is heavy. Livia. I'm just saying. A little mix-up with his meds. Too much bourbon with his blood pressure pills. Accidents happen to old guys, Darian, especially stressed out ones. That's murder. No, that's timing. There's a difference. The phone nearly slips out of Ara's hand, her own heart trying to beat its way out of her chest. If we do this, Darian says slowly, it has to be perfect. No loose ends, nothing pointing to us. It will be. I've looked into it. There are ways, untraceable ways. Livia pauses. Besides, Ara will never suspect a thing. She's too sweet, too naive. She'll just cry at the funeral and lean on you for support. She's not as soft as you think. Oh, please. My sister apologizes 6 times when her coffee order is wrong. She's smart, Livia. Don't write her off. Smart about picking out flowers, maybe. Not about seeing what's right in front of her face. Footsteps get closer. If she had any survival instinct, she'd have figured out months ago that you can't stand to be in the same room with her. Ara jumps back. A floorboard groans under her foot. Silence. What was that? Darian's voice goes sharp. It's an old building. Relax. Go check. Ara bolts. It's pure fight or flight. She sprints down the hall, ducks into a guest bathroom, and slams the lock. She stands there in the dark, phone still recording, hearing her own panicked breathing and footsteps right outside the door. It's empty, Livia calls out. You're getting paranoid. I'm being careful. There's a difference. Their voices fade away. Ara counts to 120, then 180. She finally stops the recording, 12 minutes and 43 seconds of pure blackmail material, and unlocks the door. She could storm in there right now, unleash hell, and demand answers she already has. But then what? She stares at the audio file on her phone. It's undeniable proof her fiancé is marrying her for her father's money and might even kill him for it. And her own sister is his partner in crime. A confrontation now means they'll just deny everything, twist the story, or worse, handle her too. Ara's hands become steady. She walks back to the foyer, picks up the 7 stupid cake boxes, and takes the elevator down. She walks right past the doorman, who makes a comment about the rain and slides back into her car. She just sits there under the buzzing garage lights and plays the recording. Her father's voice pops into her head, a memory from when she was 16. Information is power, Ara. The person who knows more always has the advantage. Always. She'd thought he was being dramatic. But Marcus Voss built a shipping empire from dirt, outsmarting guys who underestimated him. He was right. And in her hand, she was holding a weapon they didn't even know existed. Her phone buzzes. It's Darian. She watches his name flash, lets it ring 4 times, and then picks up. Hey, so sorry. Her voice is light and breezy, like her world hadn't just been shattered into a million pieces. The traffic is a total disaster in this rain. Where are you? He asks, sounding completely normal, even concerned. What an actor. About 20 minutes out. I have the cakes, but I know you've had a long day. We can do it tomorrow. Actually, something just came up at work. Can we push to tomorrow? Of course. She catches her reflection. Makeup a mess, hair soaked, the diamond on her finger looking like a cold, hard lie. Tomorrow is perfect. You're the best, love you. The words are so easy, so fake. Love you too, Ara says and hangs up. She sits there for 10 more minutes, just breathing. Then she gets to work. She emails the audio file to 3 separate accounts: a personal backup, a high-security cloud, and a ghost account she never uses. A contingency plan. Another lesson from her dad. Ara drives home through the storm, past all the milestones of her fake life. The bakery, the restaurant where he proposed. Her own apartment feels alien after spending so much time at his. She drops the cake boxes up the counter and pours a drink. Bourbon, no ice, just how her dad takes it. Then she starts digging up every single document she has on Darian Hale. He was always so vague about his past, she realizes now, always dodging questions about his family and where he came from before he became a business titan. At first, she figured he was just some big shot too proud to remember being poor. Turns out she was dead wrong, and he was hiding a bombshell. Laura fires up her laptop and starts digging. 3 hours deep, the truth spills out. Darian Hale? Totally fake. He legally ditched his old name 8 years ago. Before that, he was Darian Kozlov, son of a lieutenant in the Volkov crime syndicate, a nasty East Coast crew running extortion and money laundering. The feds busted the Volkovs 5 years back, jailing most and making a few disappear. But Darian was slick, bouncing before the whole thing imploded to build a new name and a squeaky clean corporate empire. But that clean surface was a total lie. Her digging revealed a tangled mess of shell companies and ghost accounts, a river of cash being desperately scrubbed clean. Darian wasn't just a CEO, he was a ghost who got way better at hiding in the shadows. He was after her family's shipping business as a brand new pipeline for his dirty money. She slumps back, the screen's blue glow on her face as she rubs her tired eyes. It's 4 a.m. when her phone buzzes. A text from Livia. "We missed you. Dad's talking about the wedding again. Call me." Laura just stares at a photo of her and her sister on a sunny beach laughing. A perfect moment trapped in time. And one question hangs in the air. For how much longer? How long was this whole sham going to last? She ignores the text. Instead, she pops open a new tab and punches in a name. Victor D. Costa, a name that kept popping up in her research on Darian, a ghost tied to bad blood and busted deals, a rivalry that went way beyond business. Victor D. Costa basically owned the city's shiny skyline, the towers, the casinos, the hotels. He was a stone-cold predator, the one guy her dad always warned her about. And he was the one shadow Darian was terrified to even step on. Laura pulls up a photo from some charity event. Victor, locked in a perfect suit, his eyes like black holes, his face an unreadable mask. He had the look of a man who'd heard every lie, seen every betrayal, and was physically incapable of being surprised anymore. She'd met him once, a quick handshake at a fundraiser. He was polite but ice cold, like how a shark looks at something that's not food and not a threat. She couldn't help but wonder what a guy like that would do if she handed him solid proof that Darian Hale was about to muscle in on shipping routes right next to his own turf. Her phone buzzes again. It's Darian. Sweet dreams. Can't wait for tomorrow. Laura's eyes flick from the text to the audio file on her screen, then to the file she built on Victor D. Costa. In this game, information is power. She finds the address for D. Costa Industries and starts typing. The reply came back scary fast, not from the big boss himself, but from his executive assistant, a Teresa Moss. The message was cold and to the point. Mr. D. Costa will see you Thursday, 8 p.m. The Meridian Club, come alone. That gave her 2 days. 2 days to load her weapons. She pulled everything together. The recording, the secret financial records, all the links between Darian and the Volkov mob. She made backup copies of everything, stashing them in secure vaults and with her lawyer set to release if she died. All the while she played the perfect fiancé, smiling at Darian during dinner, letting him hold her hand while he fantasized about their honeymoon. She even faked her way through wedding cake tastings, pretending to care about shades of white. She sat through a painful lunch with Livia, listening to her sister whine about their dad's will, seeing the fake smile in every word, and she didn't crack. She said nothing. Turns out she was a much better actor than she ever knew. Thursday night rolls around. She tells Darian she needs a night to herself. Spa treatment, some wine, a classic girly excuse. He didn't even look up. The Meridian Club was a fortress of old money, a place so exclusive it didn't need a sign. If you didn't know where it was, you weren't invited. Laura gives her name and a silent host leads her through wood-paneled halls to a hidden room deep inside. And there, waiting for her, was Victor D. Costa. He looked exactly like his picture. Same suit, same dark eyes, same blank expression. But seeing him in person added a whole new layer, an intense presence, a crushing weight in the air that only comes from being the baddest dude in every room you walk into. Miss Voss, he doesn't stand, just points to the chair across from him. You said you had something I'd find valuable. Laura sits, putting her designer purse on the table, a prop to make her look like a rich girl, a fiancé, a pretty decoration. She suddenly hated it. Darian Hale is planning to hijack my family's shipping contracts, she stated, her voice steady and all business. By marrying me, getting my inheritance, and maybe even speeding up my father's death. Victor's face didn't move an inch. That's a heavy accusation. I've got the receipts. She pulls out her phone and hits play on the recording. He listened to the entire 12 minutes and 43 seconds without saying a word, without even flinching. His stillness was terrifying. When it was over, he finally leaned back. You could take this to the cops. And say what? She shot back, locking eyes with him. That my fiancé talked about my dad dying early? No crime's been committed yet. It's just talk. She held his gaze. Besides, I don't want Darian in a cell. I want him gone. A tiny shift in Victor's expression, almost a smile. So why come to me? Because he's scared of you. Because your reach is way longer than mine, and because the roots he's after will step on your own business at the port. You've done your homework. My father taught me well. Laura leaned in, shrinking the space between them. I know who you are, Mr. D. Costa. I know the world you live in. And I know Darian taking over those international lanes is going to become your problem. And what exactly do you want from me? Protection, for me and my dad. And when the dust settles, she said, I want a seat at the table. What table is that? The one you're at right now? For the first time, Victor actually smiled. It was small and sharp. You really are Marcus Voss's daughter. I see him in you. Is that a good thing? Your father is one of only 3 men in this city I actually respect. Yes, Miss Voss, it is. He raised his glass of dark amber liquid. What you're proposing is a massive risk for both of us. I know. If we go after Darian, he's going to fight back. He's got connections. He's got power. So do you. And if I agree to this, team up, there's no going back. You get that, right? Once this starts, there's only one way it can end. In that moment, Laura saw it all. The recording, Livia's fake laugh, Darian casually talking about murder, the perfect future she once dreamed of, now just a pile of shattered glass. I get it, she whispered. Victor studied her with an analytical gaze. Then he put his glass down and extended his hand across the table. "Welcome to the table, Miss Voss." She shook it. His grip was firm, warm, and felt more real than anything had in weeks. "Call me Laura," she said. And just like that, the war plan was drafted in the shadows that week. Victor's crew started digging into Darian's life, and what they found was epic. More corruption, more proof of laundered money, deep ties to crime syndicates, and enough dirt to violate at least 15 federal laws. The file they built was thick enough to completely destroy a man's life, but they held back. "We have to pick the perfect moment," Victor told her during a late-night meeting at the club, "for maximum damage. Right now, Darian has allies, people who make money off him. We need to isolate him first." "How?" "In 3 weeks, there's a big event, the summit." Laura knew about it. It was a top-secret, invite-only party where the city's real shot callers get together to divvy up the world. Her dad used to go, and he'd always come back dead silent about what went down. "Darian will be there," Victor said, "along with everyone who's anyone, every major player, all his potential allies. And you're going to walk in on my arm." Laura just stared, the idea taking a second to sink in. "What?" "Right now, you're just Darian's fiancé, the sweet daughter of Marcus Voss. A pretty accessory." Victor's eyes were like cold fire. "But if you show up with me, if you publicly pick my side, it flips the entire chessboard. It sends a message that you're not some pawn to be moved, but a player with your own power. It'll also scream to Darian that something is very, very wrong." "Exactly. It'll knock him off his game, and he'll start making mistakes. And while he's panicking about what you might know, we'll already be 10 steps ahead." The plan was insane, basically a suicide mission. And Laura felt a wicked thrill just thinking about it. "When do we start?" she asked. "We already did. From this moment on, you and I need to be seen everywhere together. Dinners, galleries, business parties. We're going to sell a new narrative that you're not just Marcus Voss's little girl, but a power player in your own right." For the next 3 weeks, Laura barely recognized herself. She was in meetings with Victor's crew, the lawyers and money guys who operate in the legal gray areas. She learned how dirty money really moves, how power is really traded in quiet rooms. And she started showing up everywhere with Victor. A gallery opening, a new restaurant launch, a private auction where priceless art and backroom deals were traded in whispers. So the whole city starts blowing up about Ara and Victor D. Costa. Are they an item? A new alliance? The real players knew what was up. This was the first shot fired. Darian caught on fast. He rolls up on her, all casual, but with daggers in his eyes. "What's the deal with you and Victor?" But Ara had her lines ready, playing the innocent angel. "Oh, just business mentoring. Dad's idea, really." "Your dad told you to meet him?" "He insisted I learn how the big leagues operate, outside of some fancy party." She gently grazed his hand. "Your job is your whole life," she said. "I just wanted to see what it's like." The lie was flawless, and Darian's guard came right down. "Just watch your back," he warned. "Victor's a monster. You don't want to owe him anything." "I'll be careful," Ara promised. That night she texted Victor. He bought it, but he's on high alert. The reply was instant. "Excellent. Let him sweat." Their big meeting was at some sprawling mansion outside the city, straight out of a mob movie. Ara steps out of Victor's car in a dress worth more than a house, with security looking ready for war. "Give them a smile," Victor murmured as they walked in. "Like you own the place." She nailed it. The second they entered, the room went dead silent. You're looking at the city's heaviest hitters, politicians, tycoons, tech gurus, all of them. And right there, across the room, was Darian. He clocked her immediately, and his face was a show. Shock, then fury, then cold calculation. In about 3 seconds, she met his eyes, smirked, and turned her back on him. And that, Victor said under his breath, is how you light the fuse. The entire evening was a power play. Ara worked the room with Victor, shaking hands with people she'd only ever seen in the news. Everyone was polite, but she could feel them sizing her up, trying to figure out her angle and her importance. By the time the night was over, nobody was guessing anymore. She talked shop with a casino kingpin, debated logistics with the shipping CEO, and argued city development with a real estate titan. She wasn't just Marcus Voss's sweet daughter now. She was Ara Voss, and she was making moves. Darian cornered her later when Victor was distracted. "What is this?" His voice was low and full of venom. "I'm networking. Isn't that what these things are for?" "With Victor D. Costa." "Why?" she shot back, tilting her head. "I told you, it's a mentorship." "What is it about him that freaks you out so much?" "Because he's a damn shark. He has ulterior motives because—" Darian stopped himself. "I'm trying to protect you." "From what?" He had no answer that wouldn't expose his own dirty secrets. "Just trust me," was all he could say. Victor D. Costa is bad news you don't want in your life. Message received. Ara patted his cheek, a move that was both sweet and totally staged. We can talk tomorrow, okay?" She walked away before he could argue. Victor was waiting by the car. How'd he take it? He's rattled. Perfect. They drove back to the city in a charged silence. When Victor walked her to her door, he said, "You were incredible tonight. Even better than I expected." Is that a compliment? Don't get a big head. But you could almost see him smile. The real work is just starting. Darian knows something's wrong, but he has no idea what you've found out. His ignorance is our weapon. So what's next? We wait for him to slip up, and trust me, guys like him always do. Ara went inside and poured a drink. The same bourbon her dad loved, the one she drank the night her world fell apart. She thought about the girl she was 3 weeks ago, planning a life with cake designs. That girl was dead and gone, maybe broken, maybe reborn. Her phone buzzed. It was a text from Livia. "Are you insane? Victor Di Costa, what are you thinking?" Ara just stared at it. Her own sister, who helped plan their father's murder. She texted back, "I'm thinking it's time I learned the rules of the game. Why are you so worried?" 3 minutes later, a reply came. "Just be careful. Those men are predators." "So am I," Ara typed, then deleted it. Instead, she wrote, "Thanks for the concern. Talk soon." She finished her drink, staring out at the city lights. Tomorrow, Darian would start digging. He'd be calling in favors, trying to map out her brand new alliance with Victor. And while he was completely distracted, Victor's people would be making their move, finalizing the file and getting everything ready to absolutely demolish his empire. Ara's phone went off again. A text from Victor. "Sleep well," it said. "The war is just beginning." A slow smile spread across her face. For the first time in what felt like forever, she had a mission, one that was dangerous, righteous, and absolutely perfect. The next day, Darian started blowing up her phone at 7 a.m. Ara let every call go to voicemail while she had coffee, her laptop showing the new files Victor's team sent over. More proof, More connections. This whole conspiracy was way deeper than she thought. Her phone lit up again. We have to talk today. She let 10 minutes crawl by before she replied. I'm slammed until 3 o'clock. Coffee then? He shot back instantly. My office, 2:30. That wasn't a request, it was a command. The old Ara would have dropped everything and apologized for being busy. The new Ara, the one who walked in with Victor D. Costa, sent back a single word. Fine. She spent the morning at her father's company. Marcus Voss looked exhausted when she walked in, older than his 72 years, but his eyes were still sharp as a tack. You really stirred the pot last night, he said, skipping the hello. Ara closed the door. You heard? The whole city heard. My daughter making a scene with Victor D. Costa. People are talking. And you? Are you talking? Marcus leaned back, his eyes drilling into her. I'm watching. 3 weeks ago, you were stressed about flowers and seating charts. Now you're building bridges with the most dangerous man in the city. That's not a small change. Things changed. What things? This was it. She could spill everything, play the recording, show him the proof, and let him handle it like he always did. But then she'd just be the victim again, the daughter who needed saving. Darian is not the man I thought he was, she said, choosing her words carefully. And I needed to understand the world he's really in. The real one, not the sanitized fairy tale I was fed. So I went to Victor. You've done business with him. You respect him. Respect and trust are totally different things, Ara. I know. She held her father's gaze. But right now, I need someone who understands the game of power. Someone who won't treat me like I'm made of glass. Something shifted in her dad's face. Maybe pride, maybe fear, maybe both. Your mother would have been proud of this side of you, he said quietly. She always said you had a fire nobody saw. Ara's mom had been gone since she was 12. A quick, brutal fight with cancer. All she had left were ghosts of memories. A hint of perfume, the sound of a laugh, the sound of heels on the floor. Darian wants to see me this afternoon, she said, pulling the conversation out of the past. He's freaking out about the Victor situation. He should be. What are you going to tell him? Nothing real, just enough to keep him off balance. Marcus nodded slowly. Watch yourself. A trapped man is a dangerous man. I will be. She left before he could ask any more questions, before he could find out about the audio file on her phone, the evidence she had, the real reason for her mission. He'd know soon enough, but not yet. Darian's office was basically a fortress on the 48th floor, all glass, steel, and cold vibes. His assistant gave her a bright smile, like nothing had changed, like Ara was still the perfect fiancé bringing in baked goods for everyone. He's waiting for you. Go right on in. Darian was at the window when she entered, his back to her, looking down on the city. He didn't turn around. Close the door, she did. I've been thinking about last night, he started, about you and Victor, and what it means. It means I'm learning the family business. He finally turned to face her. His expression was a blank slate, but his eyes were pure ice. You don't learn the business by being someone's arm candy at a secret meeting. And you don't get involved with Victor D. Costa unless you're offering him something he wants or he's got something you need. Ara sat down, cool as a cucumber, and crossed her legs. Maybe it's both. Spill it. You're always grinding, closing deals, building your empire. I wanted in on that world. So I hit up Victor through my dad's contacts. He agreed to teach me. Teach you what, exactly? How to invest, how to read people, how money moves. She tilted her head. Why are you so bent out of shape about this? Because Victor DeCosta doesn't do favors. He collects debts, and you will not owe him anything. Like how I owe you? The words shot out, sharper than she meant. Darian looked stunned for a sec, then his face went hard. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. I'm just asking why it's okay for me to be tied to you but not anyone else. Why are your connections legit but mine are shady? Because my people won't use you. And you're so sure you won't? Boom. A massive silence dropped between them, heavy and dark. Darian stalked over, sitting on his desk right in front of her, so close she could smell his expensive cologne. And suddenly it made her sick. Ara, I love you, he said. Everything I'm doing, all this, it's for us, for our future. She just saw the recording in her head, his voice talking about her dad's death like a business deal, Livia's cold laugh. I know, she said, plastering on a fake smile. I'm sorry. She blamed wedding stress, a solid lie about wanting to be a better wife by learning his business. He ate it up, his face flooding with relief. Whether he bought it or just wanted to, the lie worked. Just watch out for Victor, he warned. Promise me. I promise. He kissed her forehead like he owned her. 20 minutes of empty wedding chatter later, she bolted for her car, hands shaking until her phone buzzed. It was Victor. How'd it go? He bought it. Just good. Rossi's at 7. Time to turn up the heat. Rossi's was a classic Italian joint in the old town, a family spot where great food was just a front for the real deals going down in the back. Victor was already there when she walked in, at a corner table with two people she didn't know. Ara, this is James Chen and Patricia Morrow, my team. James was young, Asian, with eyes that saw everything. Patricia was older, blonde, with a dead calm vibe that screamed she'd seen things that would break normal people. They've been digging into Darian, Victor said. Show her. James pulled out a tablet. Darian Hale is running a massive money laundering op using shell companies everywhere. The cash comes from the mob, and he's cleaning it through real estate, tech, and art. That's old news, Ara shot back. We had the basics, Victor corrected. James found the specifics. A recent $15 million drop was tracked to a company owned by the Kozlov family. Ara leaned forward. The Kozlovs got wiped out 5 years ago. Most of them, Patricia cut in, her voice sharp. The survivors are making a comeback on the down low. Darian's their guy, washing their cash for a cut and their muscle. Patricia's look was pure ice. The Kozlovs don't forget. Darian ratted them out once to save his own skin. They're using him. The moment he's not useful. She let the sentence hang. She didn't have to. It gets worse, James said. We've got chats between Darian and Livia going back 8 months. This whole thing was planned. The engagement, the merger, all of it. 8 months. Era's stomach dropped. He proposed 6 months ago. This started before he even asked. Show me, she ordered. James brought up a nightmare trail of emails and texts. They were talking about her dad's will, his bad health, picking the right time. And Livia, her own sister, was right in the thick of it, planning and laughing about how easy it was. Then there's this. Patricia slid a paper across the table. Darian was talking to a pharmacist, a guy willing to get drugs that would be deadly mixed with her dad's meds. Ara read it twice. He's trying to kill him. Technically, planning to, Victor corrected. He hasn't pulled the trigger yet, but he wants to. We could call the cops. We could, Ara thought, but DAS need a slam dunk. This is just talk right now. A good lawyer gets him off, and Darian's got the best. She set the paper down. So what's the plan? We let him keep going, give him more rope to hang himself with, and when he makes his move, we torch him. Victor leaned in, dead serious. You need to get this. Once we go down this road, there's no going back. You'll lose people, friends who won't believe you, family calling you crazy. Livia's already gone, Ara said, her voice flat. She picked her side. And your dad, this scandal will wreck your family name. My dad can handle a scandal. He can't handle his own daughters betraying him. She looked at each of them. How long till Darian makes a move? Not sure. Weeks, a month tops. The Kozlovs are pushing him to deliver. A month it is, she declared. To do what? Victor asked. Ara imagined her wedding, the massive venue, the invites going out, a guest list of every big shot in the city. I'm taking him down in public, she said, at the wedding, in front of all of them. James and Patricia glanced at each other. Victor just stared. That's a lot of drama, he finally said. It's also a knockout punch. Every important person will be there, all his allies, all his partners. We expose him there and it's over. No spin. The humiliation alone will destroy him. It also puts a bullseye on your back, Victor warned. The Kozlovs don't like being embarrassed. Then we'll make sure they go down with him. We'll tie the evidence to his bosses so nobody dares to help him. A slow grin spread on Victor's face. You're a fast learner. I've got good teachers. Ara stared at the pile of proof. But I need more than this. I need leverage so Darian can't hit back. What are you thinking? The Kozlovs. If we can prove he's helping them rebuild their crew, not just washing money, we get the feds involved, make it an organized crime case. Patricia nodded slowly. That'll do it. We're talking RICO charges. We'd need proof of a pattern, texts showing they're coordinating. Can you get it? Yeah, with time. But it's crazy risky. If Darian sniffs out that we're digging into the Kozlovs, he'll know there's a rat. He already suspects me. We just need him looking in the wrong direction. For the next 3 weeks, Ara lived a double life. One part was Darian's loving fiancé, suffering through dress fittings and cake tastings, faking smiles at dinner with his cronies. She even met with Livia, talking bridesmaid duties while her sister spewed poisonous lies wrapped in fake love. It was torture, but she had to do it. Her real life? She was a soldier, building an airtight case with Victor's crew. James and Patricia dug deeper, finding proof of fraud and conspiracy. They followed the money and recorded calls, building a case that would bury him. And Ara soaked it all up. She learned from Victor's lawyers how to rip apart financial docs, spot shell companies, and follow dirty money. She was learning how power really works. One night, after a brutal strategy session, Victor poured her a bourbon. You're different now. Good different or bad different. Harder to play. In this game, that's always good. Ara felt the whiskey burn. Ever regret this life? Every damn day, but regret's useless. You play the hand, you're dealt to win. What if winning costs too much? Victor locked eyes with her. Then you decide what you're willing to lose, but you choose. Don't let someone else choose for you. 2 weeks before the wedding, her dad called her in. He looked smaller, his face pale. His hand trembled, rattling his coffee cup. Saw the doctor yesterday, he said, cutting to the chase. It's worse. He's putting me on new meds. Ara's blood turned to ice. What meds? He said the name, She recognized it instantly from Patricia's files. It was part of Darian's death by prescription plan. "Dad, who gave you this?" "Darian's doctor. He said I should switch to his guy. Called him the best." "Of course." "Don't take it," Ara begged. "What?" "Do not take that new medicine. Please. Just trust me." Marcus set his cup down. "Ara, what's going on?" She could feel it, the tipping point between keeping quiet and dropping a bombshell. "Darian's trying to take you out." The words just hung there. Her dad didn't even flinch, just gave her that sharp, calculating look. "Show me," was all he said. So Ara pulls out her phone. She plays the recordings, shows the emails, the entire scheme laid out in digital black and white. Marcus took it all in, stone-faced. After a full minute of silence, he finally asks, "How long have you known?" 5 weeks. And you kept me in the dark. I had to play my own hand by teaming up with Victor da Costa for a federal takedown. Yes. Another beat. Then a sound she never saw coming. Her father actually started to laugh. It started low, a chuckle that just kept building. This wasn't funny. This was grim satisfaction. "I knew," Marcus finally admitted, his voice dropping. "Not the details, but I had a gut feeling. Something was rotten. Darian's whole act was too perfect, his deals too easy. Men like him don't trade power for love." "Then why didn't you say anything?" Ara demanded. "To see what kind of woman you'd become, if you'd run to me for help or if you'd forge your own weapon." Marcus stood, moving to the window. "Your mother. She was just like you. The world saw a pretty delicate thing. But she was the steel spine of this family. I made the money. She made the moves." This was a side of her history Ara never knew. "She was gone before she could teach you the game," Marcus continued. "I tried, but I'm a hammer, not a scalpel. You needed a strategist." He turned back to her. "Victor's giving you that lesson now. Are you mad at me? I'm proud. And for the record, I'm sticking with my current doctors." "Dad, this isn't a joke." "If they find out," he said, "let 'em. What's a 72-year-old man with a bad ticker? They'll just call me paranoid. Senile, maybe." A ghost of a smile appeared. "But we know what's real, don't we?" For the next hour, they went full war room. Marcus hit his old network, calling in favors. He was throwing his own weight behind the trap Victor's team was building. When Era left, the snare was ready. Now they just had to wait for Darian to walk right into it. The next night, Ara met Livia for dinner at their usual place, a bistro downtown loaded with memories. Her sister was already there, looking perfect, glued to her phone. "Hey," Livia said, standing to hug her. "Feels like it's been forever." "Wedding planning is eating me alive," Ara lied, sitting down. They ordered drinks, danced around small talk, until Livia finally went for it. "So, I heard Dad is switching doctors. It's a good move, right? Darian's guy is supposed to be top tier." Era kept her gaze level. "Actually, he's staying put. He hates big changes. You know how he is." For just a second, a dark look flashed across Livia's face. "That's a shame. Darian sounded so sure about this new doctor." "I think Dad knows what's best for him," Ara shot back. The conversation shifted to the wedding, to Livia's job, to some future trip they'd never take. It was a perfect performance of sisterly love, but every word felt hollow. Back at home, she texted Victor. "Livia knows about the doctor. She brought it up. They are 100% watching us." "Good," he replied instantly. "Let them." 10 days before the wedding, everything accelerated. Darian started getting twitchy, paranoid. He was constantly on his phone, having hushed conversations that stopped the second she walked in. He bailed on 2 meetings with her dad, blaming work emergencies. The network of contacts Patricia was tracking suddenly went radio silent. They either got tipped off or smelled the trap closing in. "We need to move up the timeline," James pushed during a meeting at Victor's office. "They can feel something's wrong." "But what did they actually know?" Ara shot back. "Hard to say, but Darian's calling his banners, prepping his crew. He's gearing up for a fight." Victor tapped his fingers on the table. "Then we launch the final phase now before they can get ready." "What's the play?" "The rehearsal dinner, 3 days before the wedding. Every key player will be there. We expose him then." Ara shook her head. "No. The wedding day, we go for maximum devastation. If we wait that long, they could make a move first." "Then we'll make sure they can't," Ara said, locking eyes with everyone in the room. "We leak a piece of the puzzle right now, just enough to make Darian panic, make him think his Kozlov connection is about to blow up. He'll scramble," she thought, "do something stupid, and we'll have it all on tape. Then at the wedding, we bring the whole house of cards down." Patricia cracked a grim smile. "A controlled demolition." "Precisely." The next 2 days were spent wiring the explosives. An anonymous tip to a reporter about dirty money. A rumor planted in the right circles about a federal probe into Kozlov. Nothing pointed directly at Darian, but it was close enough to make him sweat. The blowback was bigger than they even hoped. Darian's call came at midnight, just 3 days before the ceremony. "We need to talk. Right now." "It's the middle of the night, Darian. I don't care. I'm coming over." He showed up 20 minutes later, looking like he hadn't slept in a week. His suit was a mess. His eyes were darting everywhere. "I'm being investigated," he blurted out as she opened the door. "Federal agents. Somebody's been talking." "What are you saying, Darian?" "Financial crimes, money laundering. They're asking about my business, my partners." He stopped, his eyes drilling into her. "Did you say anything to Victor about my cash, about anything?" "No, I know nothing about your finances. You never talk business with me, remember? You said it would just bore me." He scanned her face, looking for any crack in her poker face. She gave him nothing. "Someone is trying to destroy me," he finally said. "Right before we get married. Someone who knows things they have no business knowing." "Who would do that?" "I don't know, but I'm gonna find out." He put his hands on her shoulders. "Ara, look at me. The next few days are going to be a storm. They'll throw accusations, lies. I need you to believe in me. You have it. No matter what they say, no matter what proof they show, remember it can all be faked. They can make an innocent man look guilty." Ara just nodded. She let him think he had her completely fooled. The moment he left, she shot a single text to Victor. "He's rattled. It's working." The reply was immediate. 3 more days. Stay strong." 3 more days until she would stand up in front of everyone and utterly dismantle the man she almost gave her life to. 3 more days until the whole world shifted. Ara poured a bourbon, her father's favorite brand, and stared out at the city. Somewhere out there, Darian was coming apart at the seams. Livia was probably right there with him, trying to figure a way out. Let them try. Ara had something stronger. She had the truth. And in 3 days, it was getting a microphone. The rehearsal dinner was supposed to be exclusive. 50 guests in the Ashford Hotel's ballroom, all soft lights and expensive champagne, but the tension was so thick you could feel it pressing in on you. Ara's white dress was a power move, a shard of fake innocence with a brutal price tag. She watched Darian work the crowd, shaking hands, faking laughs, playing the part of the perfect groom. He was a natural at it. She had to give him that. Livia was by the bar, talking to their aunt. Their eyes met across the room, and her sister gave a smile that looked warm but felt like ice. "Are you ready?" Victor's voice was a low growl right behind her. He wasn't on the list, the uninvited ghost at their final party. Darian had frozen up the second he saw him, but knew he couldn't cause a scene. "As I'll ever be," Ara breathed. "Your father's crew is set. James has the video feed locked down. Patricia is outside with the hard copies. When you give the signal—" "I know the signal!" Victor's look was dead serious. "You can still pull the plug on this. We have enough to bury him without the fireworks." "I don't just want to bury him. I want the world to watch the funeral." She paused. "Call it an ego trip, call it strategy. A quiet accusation just creates rumors of a crazy ex. This way leaves zero doubt." The whole dinner felt like a stage performance. Both fathers gave speeches, and toasts were made to the happy couple. When her own dad spoke about being proud, the double meaning was so heavy she was shocked the room didn't feel it. Darian gave his own performance about love and their amazing future. His words were so damn good that if Ara didn't know the truth, she might have actually fallen for it. After his speech, he walked over and kissed her. The room erupted in applause. All she could taste on his lips was betrayal. During the main course, Darian's phone buzzed, and then buzzed again. He glanced at the screen, and his mask completely cracked. He mumbled an excuse and rushed for the exit, phone glued to his ear. Ara looked at Victor. He gave her a small, sharp nod. Patricia was already posted up outside, probably scooping up the very message that just rattled Darian. It took 5 minutes for him to walk back in, his smile looking like it was about to shatter. "Everything good?" Ara asked. "Just business," he shot back, gripping her hand. 2 more days, and we're out of here. Just us." "Can't wait," she said, the lie rolling off her tongue easier every time. Once dinner was over, everyone started mingling. Ara got trapped by Aunt Margaret, who, totally deaf to the room's vibe, wanted to argue about flowers. "The peonies are my top pick," Margaret declared, "but we need a backup if the shipment gets messed up." "Roses are classic, I guess, but so basic?" Suddenly, Livia was right there. "Ara, can I borrow you for a sec?" They stepped away from the crowd, finding a spot near the giant windows overlooking the city. "You look stressed," Livia pointed out. "It's been a hell of a week." "Wedding jitters?" Ara almost laughed. "Nah, just tired." Livia put a hand on her arm, a fake sisterly move that felt totally empty. "I know I've been MIA lately. Work's been nuts, but you gotta believe me, I'm happy for you. Seriously, so happy." "Thanks, Liv. Darian's a solid guy. A little intense sometimes, but good. You two are gonna have an amazing life." The words were so perfectly sincere, they had to be straight up poison. "I appreciate that," Ara choked out, the phrase meaning absolutely nothing. In her sister's hug, Ara got a flashback to the recording. Livia planning their dad's death, laughing about how soft Ara was. When they pulled away, Livia's eyes were glistening with fake tears. Total psycho, master manipulator, or maybe both. The party started dying down around 11. Guests bailed with hugs and one last congrats for Darian. Her dad ducked out early, saying he was tired, but the look he shot her on the way out was a whole damn novel about their shared mission, a look that said everything they couldn't speak out loud. By midnight, it was just Darian and a few of his loyal goons left with the cleanup crew. "Let's bounce," Darian said, his voice shot. The ride to his penthouse was dead silent. Inside, he poured himself a fat glass of scotch, a solid 3 fingers, and just stared out the window. "Something's off," he finally said. A shock went through Ara, but her voice was ice cold. "What are you talking about?" "I can feel it. Someone's making a move against me, trying to tear down my entire empire." "Who?" "If I knew, they'd be gone already." He spun around to face her. "But I'll find them, and I'll deal with it." "I know you will," she said. He locked eyes with her. "You trust me, right? Even when stuff gets messy, when the rumors start flying, because they were definitely coming. The people who want me to fail will spin some crazy stories, a whole web of lies." She walked over and took his hand. "Darian, whatever's coming, we handle it together. That's what marriage is." A tiny bit of the tension left his body. "I love you." "I love you too," she shot back, the lie tasting like ash in her mouth. She had to stay the night. Leaving would set off all his alarms. Lying next to him in the dark, she timed her breathing to his, obsessed with how close she was to the finish line. Just 2 more days. Her phone buzzed at 3 a.m. It was Victor. "Patricia got the recording. He's making his move on the wedding day. We think that's when he'll try to swap the meds. We'll be ready," she typed back. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow's the last day before the main event." She almost snorted. "Rest?" "Yeah, right." The next morning was total, managed chaos. The final gown fitting, last-minute calls to vendors, a storm of dumb decisions that felt completely insane. Ara played the part, smiling for the tailor, nodding about seating charts, pretending to care about French versus Italian champagne. Her dad called around noon. "The medicine's here. Darian's doctor dropped it off himself." "You didn't take it?" "Hell no. But I called the doc, told him I was having second thoughts, said I wanted to wait until after the wedding." "How'd he take it?" "He was shocked. Tried to talk me into it, saying the timing was super important." Marcus paused. "He's in on it, Ara. The doctor's dirty." "Put his name on the list. It's getting pretty damn long." "Good," her father said. "I want every last one. No loose ends." That afternoon, she met James and Patricia at a cafe. They both looked wiped out. "We got it all," James said, sliding a tablet to her. The financials, the comms, the witness statements. The pharmacist flipped for immunity, and Darian's doctor kept his own detailed notes. Turns out he documented the whole conspiracy, probably as his own get-out-of-jail-free card. It's all on there. Ara swiped through the files, seeing months of hard work boiled down into a case that was bulletproof. "The presentation is locked and loaded," Patricia added. 17 minutes. It's got the original audio plus all the evidence. We can launch it from inside the venue. "Who's on tech?" "That's me," James said. "I'll be in the AV booth. You give the signal, and it goes live on every screen. Video, audio, documents. Everyone sees everything at once." "And the backup plan?" 3 separate systems. Even if his goons try to shut it down, the show goes on." Ara looked at them, feeling a massive wave of gratitude. "Thank you for this." Patricia's expression softened just a little. You're tougher than you look, kid. Victor was right about you. What did he say? That you remind him of himself 20 years ago, before the world broke him. I'm feeling pretty broken right now. No, Patricia shot back, leaning closer. You're full of rage, big difference. Cynicism is when you stop caring. You care so much, you're ready to burn it all down. That's why you're here. Maybe she had a point. Ara didn't even know anymore. That night, she had dinner with Victor at Rossi's at their usual table. It felt like coming home, which was weird since they'd only met 6 weeks ago. Nervous? He asked. Terrified? Good. Fear keeps you sharp. He poured her some wine. After tomorrow, your life changes forever. You get that, right? I know. I mean, for real, you're nuking every bridge to Darian's world. Some people in my world will never trust you. They'll just see you as a vengeful, loose cannon. Others will respect you, but you can never go back to being just Marcus Voss's little girl. I don't want to go back. Victor nodded slowly, deliberately. Your father and I talked. He wants you to take over his operations, train with me for a few years, learn the real game, and then run the show. And what do you think about that? I think you'd crush it. You'd be better than good. You've got instincts you can't teach. He let that hang in the air. But it's a brutal life, Ara. It takes its toll. It costs you people, peace of mind, sleep. Are you trying to talk me out of it? I'm telling you to choose knowing exactly what you're getting into. To walk into this with your eyes wide open. Ara thought about the last 6 weeks of digging through financials and finding shell corporations, of sitting in rooms where violence was just another business tool, of becoming someone who could lie to her fiancé's face without even flinching. My eyes are open, she said. They planned out the entire operation until way past midnight, covering every angle, every desperate move Darian might pull. As Victor drove her home, he said, No matter what happens tomorrow, you already won. You took back your own story. That's all that matters. Remind me of that when it's over. I will. The wedding morning was painfully bright, the weather so perfect it felt like a sick joke. Ara woke up at her dad's house in her old childhood bedroom. It was tradition, the planner insisted, for the bride to avoid the groom. Marcus was already downstairs, looking more alive than he had in months. It was like this one mission had recharged his batteries. How you feeling? He asked. Like I'm about to blow up my entire life. No, he corrected her. You're about to take it back. He handed her some coffee. Your mother would have loved this. She always said the best revenge is making your enemies watch their own destruction. You talk about her more now, because you're more like her now. A tiny smile appeared on Marcus's lips. She would have been proud. Hell, I'm proud. The morning turned into a controlled storm of activity. The hair and makeup crew, the planner and her clipboard, the bridesmaids rolling in with their matching dresses. Livia showed up around 10, looking radiant and clueless, with no idea of the bomb that was about to drop. You look stunning, she gushed, seeing Ara in the simple, slick white dress, a gown that cost more than most people's annual salary. Thanks, Liv. I can't believe my little sister's getting married. Livia's eyes got misty again. I'm just so thrilled for you. Her acting was straight up award-worthy. At 11, her phone buzzed. It was Victor. We are a go. James is at the controls. Patricia has the data. You just have to get through the vows. What if Darian catches on? Then we detonate early, but he won't. His security team's been radio silent all morning. The main event was scheduled for 2 p.m. at the Cathedral of St. Catherine, a spot with gothic vibes and stained glass that made everything feel super serious. Ara showed up at 1:30. From a window in the bridal room, she watched the city's top dogs file in, a whole assembly of the rich and powerful. The corporate kings, the political players, the old money clans. Victor showed up with his trademark quiet intensity, looking deadly sharp in a tailored suit. And over at the altar was Darian, making small talk with the priest, looking every bit the part of a blissfully nervous groom. 5 minutes, the wedding planner chirped. Ara's father appeared at the door, rocking his best suit. He stared at her for a long second. "This is your final chance to walk away," he said quietly. "I'm not walking away." "Good," he replied. "Now let's go absolutely ruin this monster." The ceremony started right on time. As the music hit its peak, the massive doors swung open and Ara glided down the aisle on her father's arm. Every single person turned to look. She saw Victor's unreadable face in the third row. She spotted James near the back of the church, probably sending out one last signal. She saw the faces of the powerful, all there to see a merger of empires. And she saw Darian, his eyes locked on her with a look that might pass for love, if he was even capable of it. The officiant recited the classic lines about union and forever. To Ara, it was all just background noise. They got through the vows, the ring exchange, and the part where he asks if anyone objects. The silence was pretty hilarious. "By the power vested in me," the officiant started, "I now—" "Wait." Ara's voice, sharp and cold as a blade, completely shattered the holy silence of the cathedral. "There's something I need to say." A hush fell over the crowd, and totally baffled silence fell. Darian's smile became a frozen mask. "Ara, what? I have some information everyone here needs to hear." She pivoted, facing the ocean of people in front of her. Hundreds were staring as she began to talk about the man she was about to marry. "Ara." Darian's voice was a deep, threatening growl. "Don't you dare!" "Do what? Drop the truth bombs?" She met his stare. Isn't honesty what a marriage is supposed to be built on? The cathedral's big screens, which were meant to show the ceremony, flashed to life. James had officially hit the launch button. "What is this?" Darian's face went pale. "This," Ara's voice thundered, "is a little recording from 6 weeks back. The very night I was supposed to be bringing over samples of our wedding cake." Her voice blasted from every speaker in the holy place, terrifyingly clear. "The merger requires it. Her father won't sign the shipping contracts until his little princess is legally tied to me." Every single person heard those words. Darian, Livia, every last soul in those pews. The recording kept playing, laying out the whole scheme to end her father's life. The chat about speeding up the plan and making it look like it was from natural causes. Livia jumped up from her front row seat, her face a mask of pale horror. "Stop it! Shut it off right now! Why?" Ara spun to face her sister. "Don't you want everyone to hear your part? Your little suggestion about murder, how you laughed at how stupid I was?" The audio hit that exact part at that moment. Livia's voice came through, ice cold and clear. "She's way too naive, too soft. She'll cry at the funeral, lean on you for comfort, and she'll never suspect a thing." The cathedral basically exploded with noise. Gasps and yells broke out as everyone shot to their feet. Darian lunged forward, but Victor was faster, moving in to cut him off, as his men seemed to pop up from the crowd like they were just waiting for the signal. "Don't," Victor said in a low voice. The screens changed, now showing financial statements, shell corporations, money laundering schemes, and incriminating messages with the Kozlov family. "This is nuts," Darian screamed. "It's all a lie, every single bit." "Is it, though?" Ara's voice didn't even tremble. "Should we bring in the federal agents who've been working on this case? Or maybe we can ask your doctor about the medication he gave my father." The exact same medicine that was engineered to stop his heart. More shocked noises rippled through the audience. Her father stood up from his seat, his gaze locked on Darian with an intensity that could bend metal. "You tried to end my life," Marcus said. "All of this for some shipping deals. No, it's not what it looks like. I was set up." "Ara, you know I wouldn't. I don't have to know anything." Ara glared at him, really seeing the snake he was for the first time. "I know exactly who you are. I've known for 6 entire weeks." The presentation kept going, 17 minutes of undeniable evidence, complete with witnesses and testimony. When it was over, not a single doubt remained. Darian was left standing at the altar, his perfect reputation crumbling in front of everyone. Some people were already heading for the doors, trying to get away. Others were on their phones, probably speed dialing their lawyers. Victor's crew had formed a casual circle around Darian, not threateningly, but making it clear he wasn't going anywhere. "The authorities are on their way," Patricia's voice called out from near the main entrance. "Federal agents. They have copies of all the same evidence. They're coming to make arrests." Darian stared at Ara, his face a mix of rage, panic, and pure venom. "You've destroyed me," he hissed. "No, I saved me. There's a huge difference." Livia tried to make a run for it, getting halfway down the aisle before 2 of Victor's people stepped in her way. She was a wreck, her makeup a mess. The perfect sister act was officially over. "I had no idea," she wailed. "I didn't think he was for real. It was just talk." "You gave him ideas," Ara shot back. "You researched the medicine. You knew exactly what you were involved in." The cathedral had descended into total chaos. People were shouting at each other while security tried to keep things under control. The wedding planner looked like she was about to have a heart attack. Marcus walked up to the altar looking at Darian with cold, hard logic. "You came after my family," he said, his voice dangerously low. "My own kid. You thought we were an easy target." "Easy, Marcus. We can figure this out. There's nothing left to figure out. You're completely finished." Marcus then looked at Ara. "You handled this flawlessly. I had the best teacher." 10 minutes later, federal agents poured in. They cuffed Darian, reading him his rights as cameras flashed, capturing his epic fall from power. Livia was led out in a separate group, still sobbing, still claiming she knew nothing. The wedding guests cleared out soon after. A couple offered weak apologies. Most just vanished. Victor stuck around, making sure everything was documented and that nobody tried any last-minute stupid stunts. By 4 in the afternoon, the huge hall was dead quiet with only Ara, her father, and Victor inside. "Well," Marcus finally said, breaking the silence. "That was quite a show." Ara let out a laugh that was almost a sob. "I needed them all to see it." And they did. Victor turned to her. "You good? I have absolutely no idea." "Check back with me tomorrow, fair enough." They snuck out a side entrance, avoiding the mob of reporters gathering out front. Marcus headed home. Victor offered her a lift, but she said she'd rather walk. She needed the fresh air, the space, a second to process the bomb she had just detonated. The wedding gown was a pain to walk in, but she didn't care. She'd gone about 3 blocks when Victor's car pulled up beside her. "Get in," he said, his voice coming from the open window. "I'm okay. You're wandering around in a wedding dress looking like you're about to crack into a million pieces." "Get in the car, Ara." She did as she was told. They drove through the city, wrapped in a heavy silence. Finally, Victor spoke. "You get that this is nowhere near over, right? Darian will fight the charges. His legal team is going to rip your reputation to shreds. The news will turn this into a 3-ring circus." "I know. And the Koslovs, they're not going to be happy about this hit to their cash flow." "Are you trying to make me scared?" "I'm trying to make you ready. This is the start of the war, not the end of it." Ara looked out at the city lights. It looked the same as always, a skyline of buildings and traffic, full of people who had no idea a life had just been blown up. "Then I guess we'll just have to keep on fighting," she said. The hint of a smile appeared on Victor's lips. "Yes, I suppose we will." He brought her to his own building, to a high-tech, secure apartment on the very top floor. "You'll crash here tonight," he told her. "My guys are posted outside. Nobody gets in unless I say so." "You think Darian's people will come after me?" "I think that desperate guys do desperate things. And right now, Darian is a very, very desperate guy." The apartment was spotless, modern, and had 0 personality. Ara collapsed onto the sofa, still in her wedding dress, and finally let the floodgates open. The massive weight of what she'd done, the bridges she'd burned, the life she'd just torn down. The tears didn't just trickle out, they came as a huge sob she couldn't control. Victor showed up with a glass of bourbon. He sat next to her, not offering any fake comfort or telling her it would all be fine. He just sat there quietly while her entire world shattered. When the storm inside her finally passed, he handed her the glass. "Better?" he asked. "No, but functional. That's all you have to be right now." Ara took a sip of the bourbon. It burned. Everything burned. "What's the next move?" she asked. "Next, we make damn sure Darian doesn't get a chance to get back up. The feds have a solid case, but we need to keep the heat on. Make sure none of his buddies get brave enough to step in. And Livia? Oh, she'll flip on him instantly, singing like a canary to save her own neck. This is my own flesh and blood who helped plan my dad's murder. Sometimes family is just a word you gotta throw away." He was right. Ara knew deep down he was absolutely right. They just watched as the sun went down, turning the city gold. Tomorrow would be a whole new war, reporters, lawyers, and new psychos wanting payback. But tonight, Ara scored the win. And that was all that mattered. Morning came way too fast. Ara crashed on Victor's couch, still in her wedding gown, with the blanket someone had put over her. Her head was pounding, her eyes burned. Victor was already in action, at his dining table with coffee and 3 different papers spread out. "You're on the front page," he said, not even looking up. "All 3 of them, and every news site online." Ara dragged herself upright, feeling every ache. "How bad is it?" "Depends on how you look at it." He slid a paper over. "The Times is calling it the scandal of the decade. The Post went with the wedding crasher. The Journal is at least trying to be a real newspaper, focusing on the federal charges." The photo was her at the altar, in the dress, while Darian got hauled off in cuffs. Her face was a total mask. She didn't even recognize herself. "There's video, too," Victor added. "Someone filmed the whole thing. It's viral." "Of course it is. Your phone was blowing up. I turned it off around 3 a.m. She dragged herself to the bathroom and took a hard look in the mirror. Mascara streaks ran down her face. Her hair was a total disaster. The dress was a wrinkled mess. She looked like she'd just survived a freaking war. And maybe she had. She washed her face, gave up on fixing her hair, and just let it be. When she came out, Victor had a coffee waiting for her. "Your dad called. Wants to know if you're okay." "Am I okay?" "You tell me." Ara thought about it. A day ago, she exposed her fiancé as a would-be murderer in front of everyone. She wrecked her sister's entire life. She was now ground zero for the biggest scandal this city had seen in years. "I'm still breathing," she finally said. "That's gotta count for something." "It counts for everything." Victor checked his watch. "The federal prosecutors want to see you this afternoon to go over your statement, prep you for trial." "This fast?" "They're not messing around. Probably worried Darian's crew will start destroying evidence or scaring off witnesses." He paused. "One more thing. Livia's lawyer called. She wants to talk to you." "Hard pass." "That's what I told them. But she's claiming she has new info. Stuff that wasn't in the evidence we found." "Like what?" "They wouldn't say, but my bet is she's trying to cut a deal for herself. Probably dangling testimony against Darian to get a plea bargain." Ara just sipped her coffee. The brew was strong and bitter, just like her new life. She would testify. She didn't need any coaching. Victor just gave a nod. "Patricia's downstairs," he told her. "She has clothes and the files you need for the prosecutor's meeting. And security." That last word just hung there. The Kozlovs just lost their money laundering pipeline. They're not going to be happy. Right, the Kozlovs. She'd been so focused on Darian and Livia, she'd almost forgotten about the crime family that now wanted her dead. "How much trouble am I in?" she asked. "Honestly, a lot. But we're handling it. My guys are watching you, your dad, anyone they might use as leverage." This whole situation was insane. "This is the sandbox you decided to play in," Victor said, his voice grim. "You can still back out, give your testimony from a safe house, and just disappear for a few months until it's over." "And live like what? Looking over my shoulder forever?" "Could be." "Nope." She put her cup down for good. "I'm not hiding. I started this out in the open. I'm going to finish it the same way." A flicker of respect showed on Victor's face. "Then we handle it head on." Patricia showed up 20 minutes later, a garment bag and a fat folder in her hands. She gave Larara a once-over. "You look like you've been to hell and back," she said. "Great. Thanks for the confidence boost. I brought you a change of clothes. Shower's that way. We need to be out of here in 40 minutes." The water felt like a reset. The outfit, a simple and pricey black suit, helped even more. Dressed with some makeup on, she looked almost human again. In the ride over, Patricia gave her the rundown. "The prosecutor's name is Sarah Chen. She's smart, aggressive, a total shark. She'll want a play-by-play of everything, the tape, the digging you did yesterday. Stick to the facts. Don't add anything. Don't speculate." "What about Livia?" "What about her? Is she flipping?" "Her lawyer is talking to them, but nothing's confirmed." Patricia gave her a sharp look. "You better get ready for the chance she gets a slap on the wrist." "She helped plot our dad's murder." She laughed about it. "The law sees it differently. A good lawyer could argue she was just playing along with Darian, that she never meant to go through with it." That's the system. Get used to it." The federal building was a total zoo. Cameras, reporters, news vans everywhere. The questions hit the second they pulled up. "Miss Voss, how long did you know? Was the wedding a trap?" Are you working as a federal informant? Patricia and Victor's security guys made a wall, plowing a path through the chaos. Someone shoved a mic in her face. Victor knocked it away. Inside, it was completely silent. Sterile hallways, the smell of government paperwork. Sarah Chen was waiting for them in a conference room, the 7th floor. She was younger than Larara expected, maybe 40, Asian, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Miss Voss, thanks for coming in. Chen shook her hand. I know yesterday was a nightmare, but we have to move fast. For 4 hours, they picked apart every single detail, the recording, the background check, every piece of evidence. Chen's questions were like a surgeon's scalpel, relentless. She wanted dates, times, exact words. After you first heard the recording, what was your immediate next step? I made 3 copies, hid them in separate locations. Smart. And after that? I investigated Darian, found his real identity and his connection to the Kozlovs. Why did you go to Victor instead of the cops? Larara took a beat. This was tricky. I knew the evidence wasn't enough. A recording can be explained away as talk. I needed something solid. And Victor helped you get it. He did. And what did he get out of it? His protection and intel on Darian's operations that could mess with his own businesses. Chen scribbled some notes. You know, they're going to paint this as a personal vendetta, a woman scorned getting revenge. I was a woman whose fiancé was planning to murder her father for her inheritance. Revenge sounds about right. A tiny smile played on Chen's lips. Fair enough. But the defense will try to paint you as unhinged and spiteful, maybe even claim you faked the evidence. The recording is 100% real. So are the bank records, the witness statements, and all the rest. I'm on your side, but a jury can be a wild card. Chen closed her file. Here's where we stand. Darian Hale is facing conspiracy to commit murder, money laundering, fraud, and RICO charges. The case against him is rock solid, but his lawyers are already talking about a plea deal. No deals, Larara said flatly. That's not your decision. It's up to the Department of Justice, and if he can be flipped to Ratten the Kozlovs to testify against bigger fish. He tried to have my father killed. I get that, but my job is to take down entire criminal organizations. That sometimes means cutting deals with the little guys to catch the big ones. Larara shot a look at Victor, who'd been quiet the whole time, taking it all in. The Kozlovs are the main target, he finally said. Darian is just a soldier. If Chen can use him to bring down their whole operation, you get way more security than his jail time would ever give you. I want them both. The organization in ruins and Darian in a cell. We'll do our best, Chen promised. But you need to prepare for a world where Darian gets a lighter sentence because he cooperated. The meeting wrapped up around 4 p.m. Larara's head was spinning with legal talk and power plays. In the car, Victor said quietly, "You did good in there." Doesn't feel like it? Chen's a killer. If she thinks the case is a slam dunk, it probably is. Unless Darian makes a deal. Even if he does, his life as he knows it is toast. His business, his reputation, his crew. It's all gone. Prison is just one way to get justice. Maybe. But she wanted him to hurt the way she had, the way her father would have if they'd succeeded. As they drove through the city, she saw ghosts of her old life everywhere. The spots she met Livia, the place Darian proposed. I need to see my dad, she said suddenly. I'll take you. Marcus was in his study with a bourbon and a cigar. He looked exhausted but victorious. "How'd it go with the Fed?" he asked. "It was good. They think their case is a slam dunk." "Oh, it is, because you made it that way." He pointed to the other chair. "Sit, and tell me what's really bugging you." Larara collapsed into it. "Chen says Darian's angling for a plea deal. Less time if he flips on the Kozlovs. He'll sing like a canary, it's how the game's played. That's not right. Right's got nothing to do with it. We crushed him. His businesses are toast. His contacts vanished. Every ally he had now wants his head. 5 years or 20, it doesn't matter. He's finished." "And Livia?" Marcus's expression turned to ice. "What about her?" "Her lawyer wants to talk. Apparently she's ready to spill." "You're not talking to her. Period." "I know, but Victor thinks she's about to turn on Darian to save her own skin." "Then let her. I couldn't care less about Livia's fate. She stopped being my daughter." The words were straight up Arctic. Final. "Dad, she helped plan to have me killed. She laughed about it." "There's no coming back from that kind of betrayal, Larara." Marcus knocked back his drink. "If you want my 2 cents, focus on what you can control. This trial, your safety, your future. Let the lawyers deal with Livia." He was right. She knew he was. Still, Livia had been her sister, her best friend, for 26 years, before this whole nightmare ignited. That night, Victor took her to a tiny Italian spot in the warehouse district. It was dead quiet, way off the media radar. "You have to eat," he said, watching her just push food around her plate. "I don't have an appetite." "Eat anyway. It's been 2 days since you had a real meal." She forced down a couple of bites. They tasted like nothing. "Talk to me," Victor pressed gently. "What's really on your mind?" "I'm wondering if I messed up by exposing Darian. At least doing it this way, so big, so theatrical." Larara dropped her fork. "Maybe I should have just gone to the cops, let them handle it quietly." "And what if Darian had talked his way out of it? If his lawyers got the evidence buried, what if he walked free and still married you?" "Well, for starters, my face wouldn't be all over the news." Victor leaned forward. "You're having regrets, it's expected." "Is it? You just nuked your entire life from orbit. Questioning that move is totally normal." He paused. "But tell me this. If you could rewind 6 weeks knowing everything you know now, would you change a thing?" Larara actually thought about it. She pictured the girl who walked into that penthouse with cake ideas, with a whole future planned out. Marriage to Darian, a business empire, kids. All of it was a lie. "No," she finally said. "I would do every single thing the same way." "Then stop the doubt. You made the hard call. Now you have to deal with the consequences." They finished the meal in silence. As Victor walked her back to his building, her temporary safe house, he said, "Try to get some sleep. The real battle starts tomorrow." "What battle?" "Rebuilding. You didn't just wreck Darian. You wrecked the woman who stood next to him. Now, you have to find out who you are without him." Upstairs, Larara changed and stared out at the sprawling city lights. Who was she now? Not just Marcus Voss's protected daughter? Not Darian Hale's fiancé? Not some timid girl who'd apologize for someone else's mistake? She was something else. Someone who chose a brutal truth over a beautiful lie. A woman who would burn her own world to the ground to protect what she loved. Maybe that was a starting point. Her phone buzzed. She'd turned it back on against Patricia's advice. The number was blocked. "Hello, Era." Livia's voice was a complete wreck. please, just listen." Every instinct screamed to hang up, but some morbid curiosity froze her. What's left to say, to excuse? Nothing. I heard the tape. I saw the evidence. You helped plan our father's murder. It wasn't supposed to be real. It was just talk. I never would have. You researched poisons, Livia. You pitched methods. That is way more than just talk. A long, heavy silence, then a cracked whisper. I was in love with him. With Darian, my head was all messed up. Your head was clear enough to betray every person who ever loved you. He promised we'd be together, that after he got the shipping deals, after it was over, he would leave you and we... Livia's voice just shattered. I was so stupid. I know. You were malicious. There's a difference. I'm so sorry, Alara, please. I know I'm past forgiveness, but I am still your sister. I am still... No. You stopped being my sister the moment you laughed about how trusting I was. How soft. Ara's voice was like ice. I hope you get a good lawyer. I hope you stay out of prison, but we are finished. Ara. She ended the call. She blocked the number, poured a glass of whiskey, and let herself cry one last time for a sister who was never really her sister at all. The next few weeks were a chaotic blur of legal strategy, depositions, and spinning the media narrative. Darian's team tried every play, claiming the tape was a fake, that she'd cooked up the whole scheme with Victor to take out a rival. None of it stuck. The proof was just too solid. Livia, just as Victor predicted, broke completely. She testified, spilling secrets about Darian's network that even Ara didn't know. In exchange, she got a sweet deal. 3 years probation, no jail time. Marcus refused her calls. He cut her out of his will, the family, everything. Ara felt nothing about it, just a hollow feeling of relief that the chapter was finally over. The Kozlov problem was trickier. Feds hit 3 of their properties, arresting 6 henchmen and seizing millions. But the family's top brass was untouched, running things from deep inside Eastern Europe. They're wounded, Victor explained at one of their dinners. Darian was their main pipeline into American business. They're reeling without him, but they are not done. Should I be scared? Always. But we're watching. If they make a play for you, we'll know. Ara had started to dive into her father's company, absorbing the entire shipping world. It was a complex, brutal world, a million miles away from the charity work she used to do. And she discovered she loved it. She also started working much more closely with Victor. He called her a consultant, but her real job was being his apprentice, learning how power actually worked in the city's dark corners. You have killer instincts, he had told her, but instinct isn't enough. You need the kind of knowledge they don't teach you at university. So she learned. She learned to spot the poison in the fine print of a contract, to structure deals that gave just enough to prevent a double cross, to see threats before they even formed, and to survive in a world where trust was a weapon and betrayal was just business as usual. 3 months after the wedding that never was, Darian's trial began. Allura was there every day, a silent observer in the gallery, watching the prosecution systematically destroy his case with the recording, financial records, and testimony from dozens of people. Darian's defense was pathetic. They claimed entrapment, painted her as the evil mastermind, even suggested she was mentally unstable. The jury didn't buy a word of it. The verdict came back after 4 days, guilty on every single charge. Sentencing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. The prosecution wanted 20 years. Darian's lawyers begged for 10. The judge gave him 15 with a shot at parole after 10. It was not enough. It would never be enough, but it was a start. Ara walked out of the courthouse, flanked by her father and Victor. The reporters swarmed. "Miss Voss, your reaction to the verdict?" She stopped, her eyes finding the cameras. "Justice isn't always satisfying, but it's necessary. Darian Hale tried to ruin my family. He only managed to ruin himself. That's what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness." She paused. "Let this be a lesson. In the end, the truth always wins." They were gone before another question could be thrown. Back at her father's mansion, Marcus poured 3 bourbons. "To survival," he toasted, raising his glass. "To truth," Ara shot back. Victor just smiled and took a sip. Later, long after Marcus went to bed, Ara and Victor sat on the patio, watching the city lights flicker below. "So, what's next?" she asked quietly. "What do you mean?" "Darian is in jail. Livia is a ghost. The Kozlovs are hurting. It's done. What comes after this?" Victor let the question hang in the night. "You rebuild. You find out what your life looks like when it's not defined by this war." "What if I don't know what I want?" "Then you experiment. You try things. You make mistakes." He looked at her. "You are 26 years old, Ara. You just walked through something that would have broken most people. You have time to find the rest." "Do I?" "The Kozlovs are still a threat. Darian has allies. A lot of people think I'm a monster." "There will always be enemies. That's the price for holding your ground." Victor set his glass down. "But you are not alone. You have your father. You have me. You have skills most people will never have." "Is that supposed to be comforting?" "It's meant to be honest." They sat in silence for a moment. Then she spoke. "Thank you. I wouldn't have made it through this without you." "Yes, you would have. Maybe differently, but you'd have survived. You're stronger than you realize." "Everyone keeps saying that." "Damn right it is," Victor declared, getting up. "Get some sleep. We kick off the next phase tomorrow." "What next phase?" "Your old man wants you running international ops. Think Asian and European shipping lanes. It's a high-stakes, messy game." "I don't know the first thing about global shipping." "You'll figure it out. Same way you learned all this, by jumping in." He paused at the door. "And Ara, quit waiting for someone to hand you the crown. You're already wearing it." Long after he left, she just stood there for an hour, replaying the last 3 insane months, everything she'd lost and everything she'd built from the ashes. She was down a fiancé, a sister, and her entire past life. She'd lost that easy trust, that naive idea that love could protect you. But she got something back. A backbone of pure steel, a crystal clear vision, and the guts to look herself in the eye. That had to count for something. Hell, maybe it was everything. Her phone buzzed, a text from some ghost. "Congrats on the verdict. You won the battle, but the war is far from over." One of Darian's cronies. Ara stared at the message, feeling that old, icy jolt of fear. Then she deleted it and blocked the number. Let them try. She'd outlasted Darian. She'd outlasted her own sister. She had survived her life getting nuked in front of the whole world. Whatever they threw at her next, she'd survive that too. And maybe, just maybe, she'd do more than just get by. Maybe she'd actually conquer. That creepy text was just the start. Over the next 2 weeks, Ara got 6 more, all from burner numbers. No solid threats, nothing to track, just little poison darts meant to keep her paranoid. She showed them all to Victor in his office one morning. Total amateurs, he scoffed, flicking through the messages. If the Kozlovs really wanted you gone, you'd already be a ghost story. This is just noise. So reassuring. It's the facts. A real threat doesn't text you first. He handed her phone back. But we're beefing up security anyway, can't be too careful. Ara had already moved into a new place, top floor, guarded entrance, a security setup that was basically Fort Knox. Patricia had masterminded the whole thing, planning it like a military siege. Maybe it was. The work was her only escape. Ara went all in at her dad's company, sinking 12-hour days into trade law and port politics. It was just enough to stop her mind from spinning out. Marcus was impressed. "You're picking this up faster than I ever did," he told her one afternoon. "Your mother would have been so proud." "You keep saying that because it's still true." He slapped his signature on the contract. "I'm making you VP of International Operations. It's official." "Dad, I've only been doing this for 3 months. And in that time, you've saved 4 huge deals, found 3 ways to cut costs, and stopped us from getting tangled with a triad front." Marcus stared her down. "You're ready. Even better, the board is sold on you. After the Darien mess, they see you as someone who can spot a snake." "Fantastic, so now I'm the family's human BS detector." "Could be worse." He stood, grabbing his files. "Big shipping conference in Hong Kong next month. Big shots from all over Asia would be there. You're going," he'd told her, "and you're repping this family solo." Victor would be there too, a shark in the same waters. Different companies, but their paths were about to cross. "He's got your back." Of course Victor would be there. He was always there now, a silent force pulling her into his orbit. Ara still couldn't quite label what that felt like. Hong Kong was 6 weeks out, but other storms were brewing closer to home. One of them blew right into her office that Tuesday, not even bothering to knock. Livia looked wrecked, thinner, like she'd aged 10 years. Her hair was chopped off, her face was a roadmap of her stress, and her clothes were expensive but exhausted. "Did security just wave you through?" Ara asked, not moving. "I told them I was your sister." A ghost of a smile flickered. "I guess they missed the memo that we're not family anymore." Livia clicked the door shut, trapping them together. "Can we talk?" she asked. 5 minutes is all I need." "No." "Please, Ara, I know how much you hate me. I know I blew up our world, but you need to hear this." Ara thought about calling security. She imagined the pure bliss of tossing her out herself. But instead she heard herself say, "You've got 3 minutes." Livia collapsed into the chair across from her. Up close, the damage was total. Dark bruises under her eyes, hands shaking nonstop. "I testify again next week," she started. "Federal grand jury. They're building a case against the Kozlov top brass." "I know, Patricia told me. They want every detail. I gave Darien everything. Intel on Dad's whole operation, the shipping lanes, every single weakness in our armor." Livia's voice cracked. "I handed him all our secrets, every vulnerability. I told myself I was building our future. But what was I really doing? I was arming the guy who wanted to destroy us. Is there a point to this? The point is the Kozlovs know I'm the one who can put them away. They know I hold the key that could tear down their entire American operation." She looked up, her eyes empty. "My lawyer thinks they'll try to silence me before I can testify." "Then get protection. The feds have programs for that. Witness protection." I begged them. They said the threat isn't credible yet. Not until someone makes a move. Livia's hands were clenched white. I'm terrified, Era. I know I don't deserve your help. I know I deserve whatever's coming, but I'm just so damn scared. Ara looked at the shell of the woman who used to be her sister, the girl who smirked while their father was being buried, who helped plot the theft of their entire legacy. She looked inside herself for something and found nothing. No pity, not even anger, just a deep, bone-tired emptiness. What do you want from me? I don't know. Maybe a chance to say I'm sorry, to tell you that I wake up every single morning wishing I could rewind time. Livia wiped at her eyes. You were right all along. I stopped being your sister the second I chose him. Over you, over Dad, over everything. Yes, Ara said softly, you did. Can you ever forgive me? Ara let the question just hang there in the dead silent office. She actually thought about it. No, she said, the word dropping like a chunk of lead. I can't, because forgiveness means I might one day trust you again. And I will never, ever trust you again, Livia. You torched that bridge yourself. Livia just nodded, like it was the only possible answer. Then, I guess this is it. That was 3 months ago. You're just now catching up. Her sister stood up and walked to the door, her hand pausing on the handle. If it's worth anything, you were always the strong one. I was so jealous I couldn't see straight. She looked back. I hope you build something amazing. I hope you find some happiness. I hope... Her voice died. I hope someday you can think of me without hate. I don't hate you, Livia. I feel nothing for you at all. And I think that's a whole lot worse. Long after she'd left, Ara just sat in the growing silence, staring at a world only she could see. Patricia appeared in the doorway like a ghost. I saw her leave. Are you all right? Define all right. Fair point. Patricia came in, shutting the door gently. For what it's worth, she's not wrong to be scared of the Kozlovs. The word on the street is they definitely want to shut her up for good. Sounds like somebody else's problem. If they get to her, the government's case gets weak. The Kozlovs walk, and you'll be watching your back for the rest of your life. Ara finally looked up. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that sometimes the best move is to protect the very person you despise. Patricia sat down. Victor is already moving resources. We can keep her safe until she testifies. What happens after that is on her. Victor's doing this. He's doing it for you. He knows if Livia gets silenced, he'll carry that weight. And he's not going to let that happen. Ara hated how Victor could read her like a book. She hated even more that he was dead right. Fine, she snapped. But I want zero contact, no news, just make sure she stays alive long enough to bury the Kozlovs for good. Consider it done. The next week was pure tension. Ara was a ghost at work. Meetings, deals, building her new empire, but her mind kept drifting. To Livia, hiding somewhere in the dark, a walking target. She tried not to give a damn. She failed. Thursday night, the call from Victor came. There was an incident. The ground vanished from under Era's feet. What kind of incident? Someone made a run at Livia in her apartment. Patricia's team caught them. 2 guys, thick accents, and they were packing enough heat to start a war. Is she... She's fine. Shaken up, but alive. We moved her to a new safe house. The federal marshals are taking over now. Ara let out a breath she didn't even know she was holding. Did your guys get anything from them? A little, before their lawyer showed up. But it's enough. It ties the straight to the Kozlovs, proves they sent them to stop her testimony. Victor paused. This is a straight-up gift for the prosecution. It makes the threat real. The DA is going to love this. Livia testifies on Monday. If she's smart, she'll vanish into witness protection right after. Monday came. Ara stayed far away from the courthouse, but she watched the whole drama go down on the news. And boom, there's Livia, looking tiny and terrified, swallowed by a mob of feds as they march her into the courthouse. For a split second, Ara feels a tiny bit bad for her sister. But mostly, she's just dead tired. The testimony was a marathon, a 6-hour soul-cleansing session. Livia sang like a canary, spilling everything. Names, dates, secret books, the whole operational playbook. It was a kill shot, enough to take down 12 guys, including 2 big shots from the Kozlov family itself. By Tuesday, feds were kicking in doors across 3 states. By Wednesday, the Kozlov's American empire was a smoking crater. That night, Victor takes her out to celebrate the same Italian joint, same corner booth. "You did it," he says, raising his glass. "You took out Darian, crippled the Kozlovs, and locked down your family's legacy, all in 4 months. "We did it," she shot back. "This was a team effort, pal. You would have found a way. You're a shark. You always find a way," he says with a little smile. "But I'm glad you swam down my path." They talk shop, the big Hong Kong summit, new plays on the horizon. But as the night gets darker, the conversation gets real. "Can I ask you something for real?" Ara asks. "You can always ask. Answering is another story. Why did you really help me? This was never just about Darian stepping on your turf." Victor goes quiet, just staring at his wine. "You want the truth?" "Always. Because when I looked at you, I saw myself. 25 years ago, I was set to marry this woman, a total 10. Beautiful, brilliant, perfect pedigree. But get this. She was a mole for a rival crew, feeding them every single secret I had." "What did you do?" "I married her." For 5 years, he lived inside a beautiful lie, thinking he could somehow make it real. He looks up. "In the end, she left me for a dude with a fatter wallet. The divorce cost me half of everything. I'm sorry." "Don't be. Best lesson I ever learned. Always trust that gut feeling. When something feels fake, it is." "When you walked in with that recording, I saw someone who learned that lesson the hard way and early. Someone who wasn't about to waste years living a pretty lie." "So you were saving me from your fate?" "Nah, I was giving you the ammo to save yourself." "Big difference." Ara takes a sip of her wine. "So what happened to her, your ex-wife?" "Last I heard, she bagged a tech billionaire in Silicon Valley. She got the life she always wanted." Victor shrugged, totally over it. "Good for her. No hard feelings." "For real?" "For real, holding a grudge is a waste of good energy. I'd rather use mine to build." They left the restaurant and walked out into the electric night. The city was a crazy symphony of light and sound, always moving. Ara had known this city her whole life, but tonight it felt brand new. "One more question," she said. "You're full of them tonight. What happens now with us?" Victor stopped dead on the sidewalk. "What do you want to happen?" "I don't know. A few months ago, you were my sensei, teaching me the savage rules of this world. But now, it feels different, like something more. Does that freak you out?" "Not sure. Maybe I'm just mixing up gratitude with something else." "Or maybe," Victor said, his voice low and steady, "you're just admitting we're on the same frequency. We see the world in a way most people can't even imagine." "Is that what this is? A partnership?" It can be, if that's what you choose. He locked eyes with her, not flinching. I'm not Darian Era. I'm not going to play games with you or wear a mask. With me, it's what you see is what you get. And what I see is a man who owns the shadows, who makes deals with killers, who solves his problems with an iron fist. Yeah, he agreed. All of that is 100% true. I'm not going to apologize for who I am or the world I run. I'm not asking you to. Ara took a breath. I'm just trying to figure out if I can step into that world and not lose what's left of me. You won't lose yourself. You'll be forged into something stronger. That's not losing, that's upgrading. Victor stepped closer. Besides, you're already in this world. You have been since the second you decided to fight instead of run. And he was right. The girl who used to stress about cake flavors was gone. In her place was someone colder, sharper, someone who could wheel and deal with titans and expose criminal networks, making moves that changed thousands of lives. She needed to be someone who could stand next to Victor Dosta and not feel like a damn sidekick. All right, she finally breathed out. All right, what? He pushed. All right, let's see where this road takes us. A partnership, an alliance. Call it what you want, but it had to be built on truth. No secret plays, no mind games. If this was going to work, it had to be real. A genuine smile finally broke through Victor's iron mask. Deal! They walked to his car as the city buzzed around them, totally clueless about the power shift that just went down. The Hong Kong conference was exactly as Marcus described, a glitzy battlefield of power, high-stakes chess played by Asia's biggest players, with entire fortunes on the line. And right in the middle of it, Ara moved like a queen, locking down 2 major deals and making alliances with shipping bosses from Taiwan and South Korea, shutting down anyone who doubted she belonged there. Victor was there too, making his own power moves, but they carved out moments just for themselves. Dinners that turned into all-nighters, conversations breaking down strategy and risk, moments where their partnership felt like it was leveling up into something more. One night, on her hotel balcony with the Hong Kong skyline glittering below, Victor's voice was a low rumble. You've changed since we first met, he paused. Not better or worse, just different, more sure of yourself. You don't apologize for existing anymore. I'm not totally sure it's a good thing. Why wouldn't it be? She asked. Because sometimes I miss the person I was, he admitted. The one who actually believed people were basically good, who thought love was enough to fix anything. That person was a chump, she said softly. Maybe, Victor admitted, but she would have been broken eventually. And yet, she was also happier. Happiness is overrated, she shot back, her voice miles away. Power, security, respect, that stuff lasts. Happiness is just a blip. Aller turned, her eyes digging into his in the dark. Is that what you really think? He let the question hang in the air. I used to. Now, not so much. What changed? She whispered. You did, he admitted. Watching you go to war for what matters, seeing you refuse to get crushed by betrayal. It was a wake-up call that some things are worth defending, even if they leave you wide open. Are you saying I make you weak? Terrifyingly so, he said with a tiny smile. But it's something I'm getting used to. They stood there in silence, the city lights spread out beneath them like a carpet of fallen stars. When we go back, Aller said, breaking the quiet, I want to start something new, a foundation. using our profits to help people who've been betrayed, who've been used. To give them the weapons to hit back. It's a huge goal, I know. But I keep thinking about all the people who don't have what I had. The cash, the connections. Someone like you to back them up. What happens to them? Usually, he said softly, they get erased. Then let's change the outcome. For a few of them, anyway. Victor just watched her, seeing the steel in her eyes. You're dead serious about this. I survived because I had an edge, she said. I want to give that same edge to people who have nothing. It'll be messy, cost a fortune. You'll make new enemies. I'm already drowning in enemies. I might as well make them for a good cause. For the first time, Victor laughed. A real, deep laugh she'd never heard. All right, when we get back, we'll start drawing up the plans. A whole foundation stacked with resources, legal power, the works. Just like that, she asked, a little stunned. Just like that, he confirmed. You want to change the world? I'll be your partner in crime. That's what partners do. They hit the city 3 days later. The foundation became Alara's obsession. She worked with lawyers on the structure, accountants on the money, and counselors on the support systems. Her dad dropped a huge chunk of change to get it started, and Victor threw in his own cash and network. In 6 months, they had a building, a team, and their first clients, people who'd been ripped off, used, and betrayed by the ones they trusted. People who were just like she used to be. She met with every single one, soaking up their stories, helping them plot the perfect revenge to get their lives back. Winning wasn't always a guarantee, but it happened often enough to totally change the game. The media ate it up. After months covering the scandal, they had a brand new hero. The woman who torched her fiancé's reputation at the altar was now a champion for others trying to escape the same fate. She gave one single interview, making it crystal clear she wasn't looking for fame or to be some symbol. She just wanted to get the work done. A year after the wedding that wasn't, she was standing in her foundation's new HQ, watching volunteers get trained. Her dad was there, looking more alive than he had in years. Patricia and James were running security for the foundation now. Even Victor showed up, claiming he was just there to see what his money had bought. You built something incredible from the wreckage, Marcus said, his voice low. Your mother would have been unbelievably proud. She would have been, but you'd have said I was being a dreamer, that business and charity don't mix. And I'd have been dead wrong, he admitted. This is a genius business and a total act of compassion. Turns out you can have it all. Just then, Victor appeared beside her. There's someone you need to see. Aller followed him into a small meeting room where a woman in her mid-30s was waiting, nervously clutching a folder. Miss Voss, I'm Sarah Chen. I'm a prosecutor. We met about a year ago. I remember, Aller replied. You were on Darian's case. Yes, and now I'm on a new one. Something I thought you had a right to know about. Chen slid the folder open. Darian Hale was killed 3 days ago. The official story is a prison fight, she went on, but we're pretty sure it was an arranged hit. Aller felt a crazy calm wash over her. Not joy, not sadness, just a cold, empty fact. The Kozlovs, she said, not even asking. That's what we think. Darian was getting ready to talk more, to give more testimony. They figured he was too big a liability and took him out, but they messed up. The intel Darian dropped before he died was enough to slap federal RICO charges on their remaining leadership. We hit them with warrants this morning. We arrested 6 people, including the head of the family. Victor leaned in. You're saying the Koslovs are done for? Their American operation has been completely dismantled. Interpol is hunting their European cells. It's gonna take years, but we're taking the whole machine apart. Chen locked eyes with Aller. I wanted you to know this whole thing started with your evidence, with your testimony. After the prosecutor left, Aller just sat there trying to process that Darian was actually finally gone. Are you okay? Victor's voice was surprisingly soft. I don't know, she admitted. I spent an entire year fueled by pure rage for him, and now he's just gone. What are you feeling? Nothing, she whispered. I like a black hole. I should feel relieved, or like it's over, or like I won. But there's just nothing. That makes sense, he said. He was already erased from your life. This is just the official record finally catching up. Maybe. She had no idea what to feel anymore. That evening, they had dinner at her apartment. She cooked, something she hadn't done in months, and they ate out on the balcony while the sun went down. I've been thinking, Victor started, about what's next for the foundation, for us. He put his fork down. We've been doing this dance for a year now, a partnership, a friendship, whatever we've been calling it, but I think we both know it's turned into something more. Aller's heart started doing gymnastics. Victor, let me finish, he said gently. I know you've been hurt. I know trust is a minefield for you right now. But I also know that we just work. We get each other. We want the same basic things. His eyes were locked on hers, totally serious. I'm not asking you to marry me, and I'm not asking for a promise you're not ready for. I'm just saying we should stop pretending this is all business. What are you suggesting? She asked, her voice barely there. That we call this what it is, that we build something together. That's not just a business deal, something real. Aller thought about the last year, working with Victor, learning from him, trusting him in a way she never could with Darian. She thought about the foundation they built from the ruins and the undeniable fact that somewhere along the way, their partnership had leveled up into something much deeper. Okay, she said, the single word feeling like a huge release. Okay, let's build something real, but on our own terms. No scripts, no expectations. We'll figure out the path as we go. Victor smiled. I can definitely work with that. They finished their meal as the city lights came on, talking about the foundation's next move and the promise of new ventures. They talked about everything and nothing, the way only two people who are completely comfortable with each other can. Later, standing by the window, Aller thought about the girl who walked into a penthouse with cake samples, the girl who listened to her world fall apart and chose to fight instead of fold. That girl was history. In her place was a woman who had survived betrayal, exposed corruption, and built something meaningful from the wreckage. A woman who learned that trust wasn't about avoiding pain. It was about deciding who was worth the risk. What are you thinking about? Victor asked, his presence a warmth next to her. That 1 year ago, I was sure my life was over, she said quietly. Turns out it was just getting started. Any regrets? Millions, she confessed. But not about this, not about the fight. Good. Because I have plans for us. Huge plans. A small smile played on her lips. Of course you do. He laughed. Your father is planning to retire in 2 years, to hand the whole company over to you. I know. He told me. And I'm moving into new markets. Asia, South America, Europe. I could really use a partner who gets international shipping. Are you offering me a job? She teased. I'm offering you an empire. We combine our companies. We coordinate our moves. We build something that neither of us could ever build alone. Aller turned to face him. You want to merge our businesses? I want, he said, his voice deep and certain, to merge our lives. Their companies were just the opening act. This new venture was an insane, high-stakes gamble that could either forge a new empire or burn their entire lives to the ground. So, where do we start? She asked. A real, genuine smile spread across Victor's face. Immediately. They pulled an all-nighter, sketching out blueprints, identifying weaknesses, and dreaming up a future that seemed both impossible and inevitable. By dawn, they had a new framework. By the end of the week, they had a solid plan. In 6 months, the alliance between Voss Shipping and DeCosta Industries had completely redrawn the city's power map. A year later, they had expanded into 12 new territories. And within 2 years, Marcus officially stepped down, handing the family legacy to Ara. She stood before the media at the announcement, her dad by her side and Victor watching from the front row. Marcus spoke into the mic, his voice full of gravitas. Voss Shipping was my life's work, but a new era demands a new vision. He declared his daughter was more than ready, having built new alliances, conquered new markets, and shown the strategic genius their future needed. He was proud to pass the torch to her. The press threw questions at her, and Ara answered every single one with unshakable confidence. The shy girl who used to apologize for everything was a distant memory. Afterwards, Marcus pulled her aside, his voice soft. Your mother would be so incredibly proud, he whispered. I'm saying it again because it's the truest thing I know. You built strength out of the absolute worst situation imaginable. I had some great teachers. You had the right gut feelings. We just taught you how to listen to them. He pulled her into a hug. Find happiness, Ara. That's all I want for you now. Build your empire, change the world, but be happy. I'll try. That's all I ask. That night, Ara and Victor went back to Rossi's to celebrate at their corner table, right where it all started. Victor raised his glass. To new beginnings! Ara clinked her glass against his, and to surviving the endings of old ones. They drank, their conversation a mix of plans for a future that felt solid and real. Outside the window, the city pulsed with its usual drama of life, love, and betrayal. But Era had walked through fire and come out understanding something profound. She now knew that betrayal didn't have to be the end. It could be the very thing that forges you, revealing the real person underneath it all. Her eyes landed on Victor, the guy who was her anchor, her true partner, the one who always gave her hard truths instead of easy lies. What are you thinking about? He murmured. Just that I'm glad it was you, she answered, that you were the one who came when I called for help. The feeling is 100% mutual. He took her hand across the table. We make a killer team. Unbeatable. Leaving the restaurant, they walked the streets of the city they had conquered together, past the cathedral where Ara had exposed Darien, past the building where Victor had first given her a safe place to land. They cruised past the trophies of a war they absolutely crushed. Their empire was booming. The businesses were printing money. Darien? Gone. The Koslovs? Total write-offs. Livia got a one-way ticket to state custody, left alone with her trash choices. And Ara, she was finally unleashed, free to build, to own it, to become who she was meant to be. This whole mess started with her stuck in someone else's story. The fiancé, the daughter, the sister. Now, she was the main character, period. That kind of freedom was worth every single body drop. Let's roll, Victor said, getting her into his car. Time to go home. Home! That word hit different now. Not a place, but a vibe. A sanctuary they built from the wreckage, a pact sealed in truth, a love forged from choosing each other, knowing damn well how deep the scars ran. Ara slid into the passenger seat. As Victor tore through the streets, the city lights sliced through the darkness. Tomorrow would bring a new season, new villains, and more chances to prove who runs this town. But tonight, they owned the board. And that was everything.